Well, Tim,
it's pretty serious music there,
this
buddy.
is a special update for a special interview coming to us live from St. Augustine, Florida.
The oldest and coolest city in America.
It is.
1565. They got the narrowest street down there, in Treasury Street down there. Guess how wide Treasury Street down there is in St. Augustine?
12 feet?
7 feet.
No, that's not very wide.
Home of our great games, Golf Hall of Fame down there.
That is true.
And home to North America's top distillery tour.
I'll tell you what.
That's where Philip comes in.
If we could find that guy on the phone, it'd be interesting to hear more about it, live and in living color.
Hello,
Oh, wait a minute.
Hello. Oh, here I am.
Here he is. He's got his head out of the vat and out of the whatever he's grilling up down there and then brewing in those little vats.
Yes.
600,000 people.
Philip McDaniel down at the St. Augustine Distillery. Good evening, Philip.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you guys for having me.
What a
Appreciate
gratifying
it so much.
honor for your company and your team down there. You were competing against national brands with great name recognition and major marketing events, but you knew that creating a memorable tour experience was just as important as crafting tasting spirits, correct?
Well, we're a big believer over, experience. And, there's some incredibly gifted and legendary distilleries, particularly in Kentucky and Scotland. And for us to even be included in that category was an honor. And then to actually win the 2018 Drammy Award for the best whiskey tour in North America was incredibly just mind-blowing to us. So we're really, really happy about that, and I couldn't be more proud.
Well, one of the things it is, you should be proud, because St. Augustine Distillery was one of over 300 nominations for 25 award categories, and by more than 2,000 people around the world who took a look at that. And one of the things that he has done over the years, he's greeted and hosted over 600,000.
Hello.
600,000 visitors, sampled more than 2 million cocktails, and received more 5-star TripAdvisor reviews than any other distillery on the Kentucky Bourbon Trail.
Nice. Well, man, at the end of the day, Philip, isn't that it's much about authenticity and being as transparent as you can about what you're making, and you got to get them on site as well, correct?
Well, absolutely, and it's definitely doing both. And we've tried really hard from day one to make sure that we share, every aspect that we can safely, obviously, with our visitors. Let them see what we're making, literally from the 50-pound bags of corn that we're buying, through the molasses that we're using to make our rum, and everything that we do from the barrels, the bottling. They get to experience the whole thing. It's very different than the trips to Maker's Mark or to Woodford or to Buffalo Trace, because there you obviously on these very big and expansive campuses. We're in a very small building under 10,000 square feet, but we've created or recreated what we hoped would be something that would be just as interesting and meaningful to the visitor. And I think we've managed to somehow find a balance, and I think that's what people really like.
And not only that, they're award-winning. The port-finished bourbon won the Platinum Medal, Best in Class, for the 2017 SIP Awards, the only international spirits competition that includes consumers as judges. Tell us about that, Philip.
That was amazing. Now, the SIP Awards is a rapidly growing and really popular award among large and small-sized brands. And the thing that differentiates it from, the bigger awards, the San Francisco International Spirits, or, some of the other New York Spirits Competition and many others, is that where those awards generally tend to be, the spirits are tasted by, these bourbon and whiskey aficionados, professionals, bartenders, distillers themselves. The thing that makes the SIP award to me pretty interesting and different is the fact that it's actually, the people who are doing the tastings are general consumers. They're regular everyday whiskey drinkers. They're not aficionados. They're not somebody who's been drinking whiskey or bourbon for 20 years and already has a very specific opinion about what they think bourbon should be. So the fact that our products are being tried and enjoyed by guests or the regular everyday people, and we won, and on that playing field for us was really, really important.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. We're talking with Phil McDaniel, St. Augustine Distillery, and just to review just briefly, He won the 2018 Grammy Award for the Best Whiskey Distillery Tour in North America.
Yeah. But
Isn't that amazing?
It's all about the terroir, as you say down there. That's what distinguishes Florida's craft liquor from other regions. It's all about the terroir. Explain that to our audience.
Well, terroir is really a French word, and I think the right pronunciation is terroir.
Terroir.
That is true.
Excuse me.
But the terroir, as the French might
I'm
say.
going to take him into French class.
Terroir, literally, or terroir, literally means from the land or of the land. And, effectively, if you think about coffee or you think about wine, French wine and Italian wines and German wines and California wines are all going to be very different based on the grapes that grow in those regions,
right.
the soil, the heat, the humidity, and particularly the wood that they might get locally to make those barrels, to make and age those wines. The same thing with coffee beans, Hawaiian coffee, different in Jamaica, et cetera. In whiskey making in America today, you've got a number of large and an increasing number of small distillers, craft distillers like ours, who are using local agriculture, local ingredients to source and cook and ferment and distill their spirits. But more importantly, they're actually aging them in their own environment. So if you're in upstate New York, or you're in Denver, Colorado, or you're in Spokane, Washington, or Bend, Oregon, or in our case, St. Augustine, Florida, each of those environments are going to provide a very different humidity, heat cycle throughout the course of the year, and that environment is definitely going to change what happens inside that barrel. And so we're learning as we go what Florida wants to do and is doing inside of our barrels. So it's been a real journey, and again, that's part of what we share with our guests on the tour.
Yeah, most would agree the Irish whiskey is sweeter and milder. The Florida whiskey is full of flavor and oaky, and it comes from those barrels. And you kind of are staying local now in your barrel search through a local winery, and your barrels are going back and forth for the taste, correct?
So that's actually an excellent point. So one of the big trends right now, particularly in craft whiskey making, is the ability to take your spirit, whether it's a whiskey or a bourbon or a rye or whatever it is that you're making, and certainly you're going to make your base spirit, but then to kind of create a limited release or create some added value and some scarce products. Oftentimes what small distillers like ours are doing are finding dessert wine barrels from Europe. So they're going to go to Portugal and they're going to get some port barrels, or they'll go to Spain and go to Jerez and maybe get some sherry casks or Madeira casks or what have you. And we decided to kind of keep things local, and as it turns out, there's a really spectacular winery here in Florida that grows muscadine grape. They grow a lot of them, and they make a port right here in St. Augustine. And so we're able to now trade our empty bourbon. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they've been buying their barrels, historically used barrels, from Kentucky. But about a year ago, I said, "Hey guys, why don't we're 2 blocks away." I said, "Look, instead of you buying barrels from Kentucky and me going to Spain and trying to find sherry casks, how about this? We'll do a trade back and forth. When our bourbon barrels are empty and they're freshly emptied, we can give them to you. You can load your port. It'll hold it for a year. And in return, give us your empty port barrels. We'll load them. We need them for about 4 or 5 months. Zero cost, totally local, totally sustainable. And by the way, the product is turning out to be award-winning. So it's really been a magical partnership.
Well, we're about out of time here, Phil, for this segment. We're going to have you on frequently. We learned a lot today. We're coming down there. Tell us your .com. People can find you.
Absolutely. It's just staugustinedistillery.com. That's staugustinedistillery.com. And we're also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all those good social medias. So look forward to having you guys down here soon. And thanks so much for the chance to be with you today.
Cheers, Philip. You bet.
Yeah, hopefully you're going to find that Links Libations magazine. He featured in that this last month, I think on page 40 if you go. You can see an interview there. And you might find a link to that on his Facebook. He does have, by the way, Tim, most distilleries have about 2,000-3,000 followers. Phil, you got to add another comma to that. He's got about 27,000. So anyway, thanks, Phil. It's been great. We'll have you back on soon.
Guys.
Thanks, you.
Talk to you soon. Take care, Chuck.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
He is a great guy, I'm telling you. He's got it going.
Gorgeous down there. And they're in a century-old ice plant turned into a cutting-edge distillery down there.
I know it.
Oh,
We're going soon.